welcome attendees. Thank you for being here for the Museum of Ventura County Presents Healing Wisdom About Days of the Dead, a presentation for 5th to 8th graders by Dr. Roberto Vargas. Thank you, Dr. Roberto Vargas, for joining us here. We will get underway, and right now to introduce Dr. Vargas and the entire program, please welcome Leila Kaseke.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Leila Kaseke. I'm a museum educator at the Museum of Ventura County. We are so excited to welcome you, teachers and students from many schools here in Ventura County. Today, we have viewers from Charles Blackstock, E.O. Green, Isabel, and Green Junior High Schools. It is my honor to introduce to you Dr. Roberto Vargas. Dr. Roberto Vargas has worked with our museum for many years as part of the Latino Advisory Board. He is involved in the larger community as an educator and ceremony leader for activist communities and organizations. He's a native Californian and currently lives in Ventura. For over 40 years, he has used Días de los Muertos as medicine to nurture the tradition of family love and respect. Today, he will teach us about the healing intent of Days of the Dead and how to celebrate Días de los Muertos to honor departed loved ones and increase family unity and love. Before we get started, I invite you all to ask questions in the Q&A section of the webinar. We will try to answer them throughout the program. Feel free to introduce your school, class, or name so we can give you a special shout out. Without further ado, Dr. Roberto Vargas.
Okay, thank you, Leila, and thank all of you for being present today. My name is Roberto Vargas, but today I'm Robert Canek. Robert Canek is my Indigenous name, and today, in a lot of ways, I want to speak to you about Days of the Dead from the Indigenous perspective. So just so you know, presently we're in my office. Right behind me is my ofrenda, my altar, and I'll be referring to the altar as I explain Days of the Dead, but also I'll be providing you a slide presentation so you just have an overview understanding. So first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. Again, Robert Canek. I work as an organizational psychologist. That means I try to make organizations more effective and healthy for the folks that work within them. And I'm really particular. I work with organizations that are proactive. They're about creating social good and community betterment. They're about saving Mother Earth. So that's the organizations I work for. I've also been a therapist, and as was shared, I lead ceremonies within our community for special events, which can be, baptisms, anniversaries, birthdays, maybe, a new mural in the community. So oftentimes I do ceremonies for those events. In terms of my Indigenous background, well, you might say, one, I'm Mexican-American. I'm also Chicano. I'm from people of Olin, which are the travelers of Turtle Island here. We call the Americas Turtle Island. That's our Indigenous way of talking about the Americas. And so my ancestry go back to the original people that walked this land. And so I identify a lot with Mesoamerican Indigenous folks. And so this is important to say because Days of the Dead actually was a tradition we had, Indigenous people in the Americas had, before the invasion of the Spanish. We didn't call it Days of the Dead. It was much different. It was a season. It was a season to honor Mother Earth, to honor life, and to honor our loved ones who passed on. We call them the spirit ones. So for us, Days of the Dead was actually a season of respecting and celebrating life. But then when the Spanish invasion happened, it was tragic times for us. They brought murder, they brought disease, and in a lot of communities, up to 70% of our people died. And that created just such a terrible time for us folks. On top of that, the Spanish wanted to wipe out a lot of our traditions. They made it illegal for us to actually have our own ceremonies. So what we had to do is find ways to hold on to some of our traditions. And the Spanish came over with their Days of the Dead tradition, Dia de los Muertos, was November 1st and 2nd. So what we tried to do was kind of integrate some of our own practices of creating, sacred spaces to recognize our dead and integrate them into their tradition also, so that we could hold part of ours as they could also celebrate theirs. So in a lot of ways, Dia de los Muertos is an integration of both indigenous practices and the practice that came over from Europe, particularly from the Spanish. So anyways, our plan for today is that I first want to provide you an overview of Dia de los Muertos. So I've been taking photographs of ceremonies and family gatherings for, probably at least 30 years. So I have a really pretty nice slide presentation I'm excited to share with you. And then after that, I'll be sharing with you from my altar space here. So you get a deeper understanding of how Days of the Dead is really just, it's good for your person, it's good for your family. It's my most favorite holiday period because it brings family together to share story, to share food. It provides me time to remember loved ones who've passed, like my mother, my brother, a lot of good friends. In a lot of ways, I feel this practice makes the spirit one smile, because those who have passed on, they're in another realm. But I feel that when we talk about them and we share about them, hey, it makes them feel loved and they smile. So I love the fact that we're making the folks smile. So to begin though, I'm going to start with a slide presentation. So just hold a second here. Okay, my good friends that are helping me, is my slideshow on? Yes?
Looks
Yes.
good.
Great, good. Okay, so here, title for today is Healing Wisdom About Days of the Dead, Family Tradition to Honor Our Departed Loved Ones. So again, a tradition to honor those folks who passed on our life. This here is one of our home altars a few years back, and I'll explain more about it in a moment. Right there in the big calavera, the big skeleton person there, that's my brother Jack. Jack was an artist, a Chicano activist, a gay man that he was just support family so strongly, and he passed away too early. And years ago, the museum in Oakland, California, honored him, and we built this calavera to remember him. So about 5-6 people worked together to develop that calavera, and so now he's out every season for Dia de los Muertos. Okay, so today we're going to share about Dia de los Muertos as a healing tradition, and I'm going to present how you can build a family altar and facilitate what's called an honoring circle. And we're also going to look at generating some good learning and love energy. Okay, as I said for you prior, for us, Dia de los Muertos, it's a season for honoring life, Mother Earth, and our spirit ones. So again, it's a season. For us, it was a season that maybe depending on your different traditions, it could occur around August time, all the way to October time, and often time for a number of weeks. So today, we still celebrate it as a season. In Mexico, during this period, there's gatherings just throughout the community. There's gatherings within people's homes, like this family here in Oaxaca, and also there's gatherings at the cemetery. So in Mexico, the tradition is very much revolves around the cemetery. Folks go out there to kind of clean up the different burial grounds of their loved ones. They'll do that one day, and then a few days later, they come back to celebrate with our loved ones. They'll have picnics there, and it's a time of celebrating the life of those folks that have passed, and inviting their spirits to be with us during this time. So that's how it's celebrated in Mexico. Very much revolves around creating an altar of beauty. And you do that by drawing on the beautiful flowers of your area. Again, here I was visiting Oaxaca, and you have the one señora on the left selling flowers, and the one on the right, she just purchased a whole big bouquet, which will either go to her home altar or they'll be taking it later to the cemetery. And during this period, folks construct their altars, and altars are different depending on your region in Mexico. In this particular region, it's very important that you include an ark in your altar. So they create this beautiful ark. It always looks different, and they integrate just a lot of flowers. Right there, you can see that they're integrating Flor de Muertos, flowers of the dead, and it has just a very strong fragrance. So when you smell it, you just know this is time of Dia de los Muertos. And again, the look of the altars varies depending on your community. Here, the altar here with the red tablecloth is up in Oakland, California. And there it's built in such a way that it's going to lend to people coming around to talk story and share. And that one is in California. The one on the right is another altar in Oaxaca, Mexico. And there you see bananas, oranges, walnuts, guayabas, grapes, dates. There's so much fruit and fruits. And oftentimes to celebrate life, you bring those forward. And you also bring forward the favorite fruits of the person that passed away. So you have the fruits here, and then you have some large pan de muertos there. But again, depending on your region and your family tradition, the altar will vary. And it's celebrated in almost all homes, whether you're poor, as you can see this family here, they're humble home, or you're middle class. However, all people want to remember their loved ones that have passed on. So you build your altar space. And that place becomes a center for the household for this period. And the altar can be a shelf. So you see this here in the top right-hand corner here. This family here has a small shelf, and there they've got some apples and oranges and pan de muertos and Virgen de Guadalupe. And here's their honoring space for remembering folks. And then in terms of the larger altar here, again, this is built in someone's living room, and it's just adorned with both the flowers and different food items of the folks that they want to remember. So again, it varies from house to house in terms of its appearance. And also, again, there's the trips to the cemetery. Now here, this is November 1st in Mexico, and all folks are trekking down the cemetery. Originally, they're going to get there, they're going to adorn the space of their loved one with flowers, and oftentimes have a picnic. And many folks will hire musicians to come and play the favorite music of their loved ones. And it's a time for socializing. Family who haven't seen each other all year, this is the main time of the year where they get together, reconnect, and it's a time where there's some tears of remembrance, but there's just a lot of laughter, there's a lot of good time. We're celebrating the lives of those that have passed. And in so doing, oftentimes people just sit by graveside and just talk to their loved one. Here, Senora Montaña here is just talking to her deceased husband, and she's just sharing with him, hey, how the kids are doing, what's going on with the family. And so she's talking to spirit, and in many ways she can potentially feel him in terms of his words back to her. Oftentimes the gatherings or the period begins with folks going and buying all of what you need for your altar or for this period. And one of the items people often pick up is pan de muertos, bread for Days of the Dead. And you can see they come in all sorts of sizes, and that's very much a tradition is pan de muertos. People also go around and maybe look for or collect muertitos for their altar. And again, here we'll often buy muertitos that kind of represent the person we love. I'll show you in a few minutes just a couple of muertitos I have just to help me remember people that are close to me, like my brother. And one of the muertitos I have, he's playing a violin because he played violin. So we collect this over time. And so ultimately we create an altar space that honors those folks we want to remember. On the top left-hand side, this family here is remembering their papa, who also played the cello. So you see him, he's front and center. on the bottom left-hand side, here is my grandmother. And there I'm honoring her by having close to her a photo of her grandson who passed away. He was an organizer in Mexico, and he was killed. And his father is also there. And so a lot of times you bring and put family members together so they can kind of, so their spirits can join together. And families gather oftentimes begin in the kitchen. Here in Oaxaca, chocolate is a big deal. So the storytelling about loved ones begins in the kitchen as people eat pan de muertos and drink chocolate. And it continues on. We'll have gatherings where we'll just take turns talking about the loved ones who've passed. And so on both these occasions here, the families are now beginning to talk and share about the folks they're remembering. Here is my family with my daughters and some of their friends. You know, during this period, oftentimes we'll have, you know, 2, 3, 4 different gatherings in which we invite different people over. Some because we know they lost someone this year, and we want to give them the opportunity to talk about their loved ones and share the best about them. And other times because we want to just get to other family members together to share, or for friends. So we'll have multiple gatherings. Right here is part of the altar. This one's dedicated to my papa, my father. I mean, he's the person kind of reading his Bible. And next to him, a little kind of art figure is one of his pieces of art. He would oftentimes get old pieces of wood and draw. In this case, it was my mother, and my mother was saying, "Hey, look, kids, don't smoke in this house." And there's his work hook. And the very front, there's a little bag of walnuts. And next to my dad is a container with honey. And so oftentimes you put on the altar, again, those items that folks love, because the idea is when they come to visit the altar space, you know, they can just savor the honey or savor the walnuts. So in a way, we kind of think about them, who they were, what they're about, what they enjoyed. And then we create time so we can share stories about them and others. And here my daughter's on the right-hand side, and she's sharing about my brother Jack. On this altar a couple of years ago, we see my nephew in the blue sweat jacket. He just lost his dad a couple months prior, and this was a very special opportunity for him because it allowed all of us to share how much we respect and love his dad, and allowed him to talk about his father in a way where it just made him feel better because he was remembering his dad. When you have a loved one that passed, oftentimes it's so healing for you to be able to talk about them and remember their best qualities and just tell them, "Hey, Dad, I love you." Because during this period, we often just talk directly to them, and we'll say, you know, "Dad, you know what? You know, just thank you for being my dad, you know, and thank you for cultivating me just a respect for art, respect for food, and I'll love you always." So during this period, it enables us to talk just more directly to the spirit ones who've passed on. And the children are very much involved. The children share their stories too, because, you know, oftentimes they very much remember their uncle, aunt, or grandmother or parent who passed on. Here's a young girl here talking about her grandfather. Actually, she's my niece and talking about my dad. And so typically we put up our altar maybe the beginning of October, and it'll be up until maybe almost Thanksgiving. Because once we put the altar up, we just love having it in the house because it has all the photographs of loved ones that are important to us. And periodically we'll walk by and we'll just kind of it'll draw us to the altar, and then we'll see some, you know, a cousin, a friend, and we'll pick up their photo and maybe just chat with them a little bit and put them back down. So again, it creates presence of our spirit ones for this period, enables us to talk about them and share about them. And oftentimes when we end a celebration, a family or friend celebration, we'll have what's called a uni-circle, where we all get together and we'll hold hands and we'll just say some final prayer words for those that have passed and for ourselves and for folks that need healing. And we'll try sending them good, healthy energy. And that's what we're doing here. Now in the period of COVID, we probably shouldn't be holding hands in the way that we used to. However, hey, you can still create that energy of coming together, create circle space, create sacred space, and sharing in this way. So my invitation, the invitation is from my family, is we invite you to find your way to celebrate Days of the Dead. And it can be shared in so many different ways. And I'm going to share a little bit with you about how you might approach that. So for right now, we're saying so long to the Vargas Mendoza family, because we're going to do a little bit of a sharing. Okay, so now I want to share with you about my altar space, but to do it in a way where I feel you can fully hear and appreciate what I'm saying. I'm going to ask that we begin with a few yes breaths. We know that the air around us is full of oxygen. However, it also has positive universe creation ions. The air is positive energy. And when we mindfully breathe in that positive energy, it actually makes our heart intelligence more expansive and our cerebral intelligence more expansive. And so I wanted to make sure that before I go on, you are just totally expanded in terms of your head and your heart intelligence. So here, just to begin, or before I begin this next piece, we're gonna do this little exercise. So first I want you just to loosen up your body a little bit, just kind of roll your shoulders one way, roll them the other way. Hey, and don't worry about what other people are doing or not doing. Just do this for yourself. Loosen up your body. Good. Now put your hands on your belly. Take a good breath in. Every time we breathe in, we draw in oxygen that goes and nurtures our 5 trillion cells in our body. But this time I want you to also draw in some of that positive energy ions. So lift your hands up above your head, and then just imagine drawing that positive energy down top of your head, down your throat chakra, your heart to your chest, and going through your body. Let's do it again. Just look up and imagine you're just gathering all that positive ion energy and you're just drawing it into your person. Okay. One more time, drawing in that positive energy, positive ions that make us smarter, make us stronger, more confident, make us healthy. Okay, now close your eyes for a moment. Take a good breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. And just maybe feel yourself shift into greater positivity, greater openness, just more expansive spirit. Okay, let's open our eyes. And so now I'm going to just share a little bit with you about my altar space here. As I share with you, you're in my office. From this space here, I have meetings and do trainings for people all around the county, all around the state. In a couple hours, I'll do a session where there'll be people from Hawaii and from Kansas and other places right here from my office. I do it via Zoom. But today I prepared it with my altar. And actually the altar's now been up for about a week. And so let me just share a little bit about who's on my altar. First of all, and I want to thank folks from Mrs. Wilson's class at Blackstock Junior High, because they sent their questions in early and they want to know who's on the altar and when did it start and when did I start celebrating? Well, I started celebrating the first time to honor my grandmother, my Mama Cuca. I really didn't know that much about Days of Dead because in my family, the way we were raised, we were raised around Halloween. So Halloween takes so much time and energy. No one made room or space for Days of the Dead. But later on, as I got older, some friends invited me to their house for their Days of the Dead ceremony. And I said, well, what do I bring? And they said, well, bring a photo of someone you want to remember. And so the first person that came to mind was my Mama Cuca, my grandmother. a lot of ways I'm an organizer, and I felt she taught me how to organize. She didn't teach me by telling me how to organize. I would just see how she'd organize family. And she'd do it in such a way where she made everyone feel special. And so I felt, you know what, I want to be able to do that. But anyway, so my grandmother's my altar, and I love it because it enables me to kind of talk to her and say, hey, Mama Kuka, I still keep the tradition. I still love you, still remember you, still appreciate what you taught me. Also, another person on my altar is my brother Jack. My brother Jack, next brother, beautiful person, an artist. And for that reason, his muertito is this artist figure here that I've had for many years. And so my altar is my brother Jack. And when you put someone on the altar, you also try to remember, what did they teach you? You know, what was their gift to you? And the idea is to take those gifts forward. So for my brother Jack, he was an artist. He created beauty through his art, but also his philosophy was you create beauty in all that you do. You create beauty in every conversation. And so when he's on the altar, I remember that teaching, and I recommit to take it forward. And so since he's passed, I've been continually taking forward the idea that you create beauty in all that you do. And for that reason, you know, I also try to put good energy to create beauty at the altar. Also, oftentimes on the altar are just your good friends or family who just recently passed. And for me, one of those folks that he passed on this year was good friend, you know, from the time I was 7 years old, is Javier Montes. And folks from Santa Paula know him as Big X. He was a musician, played the harp, played the guitar. He's taught so many young people how to play the harp. It's fantastic. That's his big gift to us. And much of this teaching was in Santa Paula, but also Oxnard. And one of his teachings was, well, one of the things he would tell me, Roberto, is tell young people all the time that they were born totally intelligent and brilliant, and that the first thing they need to learn to do is to love themselves. So in a way, as I've gotten close to him, his spirit comes and tells me periodically, Roberto, tell young people to love themselves, because that's where the power begins. And so I'm telling you, hey, love yourself. So again, we remember the folks that have passed, and remember the best of them, because we want to take that forward. Also, this year on my altar is a gentleman, Freddie, and his son here. And I didn't know him except recently, about a few months ago, through his son. His son came to visit me and my family, and he asked that we pray for his dad, because his dad had COVID and was in the hospital. And so, you know, we've sent prayers to some folks, and some of them have healed and have lived. Unfortunately, you know, Freddie passed on. However, he remains on my altar because I want to remember him. And what his son told me was some of his best qualities. He had a way of socializing and making people smile. And I think that's beautiful. And so he's there for that reason. But also, I want to remember that so many people passed away to COVID. Gosh, so kind of every 4 adults that have died, one of them was either a mother, a father, or a grandparent taking care of a child. So that means 1 out of 4 young people lost, you know, someone like their parent. That's too many. And so I have him here in my altar to remember that I need to just educate as many people as possible that we all should vaccinate. Vaccinate because it's good for us. Vaccinate because it's good for our families and our community. It helps us all stay healthier. And that's important. So he's there. And also a young man who passed away this year, Eric Montesinos. He was with this organization, Future Leaders of America. Eric is only about 15, and he died from, I believe, leukemia, kind of a type of cancer. But we had a ceremony for him, and everyone said, hey, you know what? He had a way of making us smile and picking up the energy and just making us feel like, hey, we can make a difference, we could do better. And so, hey, he's in the altar as to remind me that yes, young people can inspire each other, and we need to keep on inspiring the young folks. So again, this is a period where we remember folks, think the best of them, lift that up so we can take it forward. So you ask what else is on the altar? Well, in this case here, my dad loved pomegranates. So here we got some pomegranates for him. And as I shared earlier, my father was a longshoreman. He worked over in Port Hueneme when he was a kid, and this is his work hook. So like, see, here you go, there it is. And so as a kid, I remember him coming in and laying this down. He'd be all dusty and dirty, and this is his hook. So it was always important to have this in the altar, because when I tell stories about him, I remind my kids and my nephews, nieces that our dad was a worker, and he taught us, hey, you work hard for yourself, for your family, for your community. And so he instilled that value in us. And also, I just love to remember that we're working class, and we're going to continue working and fighting for working class people. And that's very important, because in this country, the very few wealthy people aren't being very responsible. They're not being responsible with Mother Earth. And right now we need to do everything we can to save our Earth. And so part of it is just remembering that a lot of us are working class people, and let's organize and just do everything we can to make sure we have a good society for all people and a world for our future. Okay. And then here, oftentimes on our altars, we'll have one of these little tables here. It's a table with ofrendas, different comidas, different foods. And oftentimes when we do have our gatherings, we'll bring food together. We'll have a potluck. Everyone brings something, and you bring foods that the loved ones loved. And then we will take time to have a gathering where we'll share about our different loved ones, and then we'll partake with eating all this good food. But our gatherings also don't always have to be a party gathering, because we don't always have time to do that. So we'll just invite folks over, and we'll just do a sharing. Sometimes just 2 or 3 people come over, and we'll just take turns sharing. And sometimes we'll have the larger gathering. So at this point, are there any questions you might have? If so, let us know, and I'll try to answer those. And then I was going to show you a little bit of slides of our altar for this year. But first of all, any questions that we should be addressing, Layla or Bob?
We don't have any questions in the Q&A right now. Do you want to maybe answer one that was sent beforehand?
Okay, well, here, I'll answer a question that came up.
And maybe and sorry to interrupt, but my name is Bob. I'm an educator as well. And I was going to say, teachers, if you want to go out to your students, I know you're logged in and probably would need to relay that question by typing into your own computer, but we are monitoring the chat and can help relay those to Dr.
Great.
Vargas. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Here, one question I'll respond to now, and then I'm going to show you a few more slides. A number of folks ask, well, is that Disney movie Coco, is that like for real? Did they do a good job of reflecting Days of the Dead? And I like to say yes. None of us know what spirit life looks like, and much of that movie is about what's going on in spirit life. But one of the major themes of the movie is that the spirit ones enjoy life when they know that we're thinking about them, when they can look down and see that they're still on our altar space, when we talk about them. So because it reinforced that idea about let's remember our loved ones, I think it was a beautiful movie. I think if you haven't seen it, you should check it out, Coco. And with that, I'm going to share some additional slides here about our ofrenda this year. So here, bear with me a moment. Okay, Bob, is my slides up?
It is up right now. And I just wanted to relay that we are getting some questions now relayed.
I'll take those up then after this sequence here.
Okay.
Okay, so folks, here, this is our altar space this year. Again, you can see my brother Jack is with us. I always got to have him there. He's got to be with us. And in this altar space, you have photographs of family, Días, tíos, uncles, aunts, different people we've known who've passed on, who we want to have close to us. Wrong way. And so again, and here's this cluster area here is my dad, my brother, my grandparents on my father's side. There's my dad's hook. Below, again, you'll see flowers, and that's a very important part of this tradition is bringing forth those flowers and remembering Mother Earth, remembering life. Here's another photograph of folks there. There in the middle, you see a little card I made there, loved ones taken by COVID. So again, just trying to encourage people to think about our neighbors and friends and be there for them, those that have lost folks. And I know we've lost a number of folks here in Ventura County, a lot of folks in Oxnard. So be sensitive and reach out to those people that have lost folks. And again, remember to vaccinate. And as I said, we just have gatherings, small, large, we'll come together and we'll share with our loved ones. Here invited my uncle Albino, and he has a photograph there of my cousin John and his first wife, Naomi. And, these are two folks he needs to remember. Those is his familia. And I have a photograph there of my mom. And so again, it's opportunity to share with different folks that are close to us. And so I want to leave you with 6 ideas of how you can, celebrate Days of the Dead for yourself and for your family. First of all, number 1, have a family conversation. Talk to your family about, look, you know what? Can we set up a family altar this year? And tell them what you learned today and explore the possibilities. If you can't put one in the family room, hey, maybe you just do one in your own room. Just like I have in the office, you might put up heroes there that are important to you. Like here, Bruce Lee, Kung Fu artist, philosopher. He's one of my heroes. He's on the altar. Okay, decide who you want to honor, because oftentimes it helps you create a good altar space to know who you want to honor. There's an uncle, a grandparents, and then with them in mind, create a family altar or inspiration table. Some people don't like to call them altars, call them an inspiration table. It's still the same thing. And then once you have your altar up, decide on a day or time to have a family share honoring circle. It could be on a Saturday morning, it could be after a Friday dinner. Hey, when you have the time to bring family together, to commit an hour to share. And then what's real important when you have a family share is someone needs to serve as a facilitator. Facilitator comes from the word fácil, which means easy. The facilitator makes it easy for people to share. So maybe you can be a volunteer to be the facilitator. So you're the person who explains about Days of the Dead a little bit, and then help people get started sharing. And then you might start by sharing. So you've already thought about who you want to honor, and you lift up their photograph or a muerto for them and say, hey, look, this is my tia, my auntie, and I just want to tell everybody that I loved her so much because she made the best comida. She made the best food. She always made sure I was fed well, and she made me feel loved. And so, I'm going to honor her. And then you ask for the next person to share. And then if they say, look, I don't know what to share. Say, well, look, what good memory do you have of them? Or what was one of their gifts to them? That's what you share. So 6 is you invite parent participants to share, recall the gifts or good memories the spirit ones left with us and how we can take them forward. So those are 6 to-dos to kind of consider celebrating. And just a little commercial here. My commitment is, and the work I try to do every day is help people connect more with living radical love. Love for self, love for each other, love for our Mother Earth. And a lot of my work is about trying to help organizations realize what we need to do to make sure we take care of our Mother Earth. It's critical. And a book I wrote is called Family Activism. How do we create a better world beginning with family and friends? We need to change our world. We need to make it more loving, more caring, more fair. It begins with our own families. So that's a book I've done, and you could find it at Amazon or at the library. And for some folks who are looking for where can I buy some stuff for my altar, La Catrina is a great store on downtown Ventura, 2338 East Main Street, a great place to pick up items for your altar. And with that, I'm going to end our slide presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We have a couple questions from Ms. Mojica Smith's class and Ms. Mendoza's class, or Mr. Mendoza, about the significance of the flowers and the water.
Okay, well, it'll depend oftentimes on the different region of Mexico, but again, we're celebrating life, we're celebrating Mother Earth. The flowers come from Mother Earth. So the flowers represent very much life. And so in the altar space, you want to have representations of life. So flowers and fruits they're very prominent. And in some areas, in particular, you'll use Flor de Muertos, Flower of the Dead, and marigolds. Marigolds are seen as classicals that represent this period. So those are two flowers that are often, we find it in our altars. And oftentimes what we do too is we'll get the flower petals and we'll just kind of sprinkle flower petals around the altar, and we'll just make a little path maybe to the front door of the petals. So the idea is that when the spirits come, they can kind of zoom down, see the petals, follow the petals, and find the altar space. So that's a little bit about the flowers, which are very, very significant. And there's more that can be said. And you asked also about
the water.
The water. Well, you know what? People come over from spirit side. Hey, they travel away. They might like some water. So you might have water there. And also, again, Mother Earth is about water. Our bodies, we're about 90% water. Life is about water. So it's precious. So often it's there just to remind us about the preciousness of life, but it also could be there for something for the spirit ones to drink when they get there. Some folks will have the favorite soda of their loved ones there, or some cases of beer, other items that they knew their loved ones like to drink. Okay, and for the same reason too, the candles are on, so that when the spirit ones come, they can see all the candles and know exactly where to zoom.
Ms. Gonzalez's students say sorry for the loss of your brother. And also Jason from Miss Lewis's class would like to know, what is your favorite memory of your father?
Oh, well, I'll go back to my father's hook. And I guess oftentimes when it oftentimes helps you to talk about them when you can hold something about them, whether in this case is hook or to hold his photograph. And my father, I feel a lot of love for him because he worked so hard to take care of us. Unfortunately, he had to start working for his family when he was about 6 years old. He wanted to go to school so badly, but back then, hey, he had to work to help support the family. So he worked his whole life. And I feel in a lot of ways I want to take forward just creating opportunities for myself that my father didn't have, and honor him by being the best dad I can be. But unfortunately, my father was also abused in such a way as when he grew up and was a man, he still couldn't hug because just that closeness to someone was just very hard for him. So when I think about my dad, I think about just a lot of people, a lot of young people and others who for different reasons haven't been able to feel love, which in a way means we need to be even more courageous to be love ourselves and radiate love and create love around us. And I feel for my dad, my commitment is to continue to model love and remind people, let's be there for each other when we can. Let's give each other hugs, abrazos, so we could feel each other's love, feel that connection. And yeah, so I think of my dad, I think of him, he's hammering, he's working on the house or he's working in the yard. And I always love just working with him. So Papa, I continue thinking about you. Love you.
If We can have answer one more question from Mr. Gonzalez's class. What is the ark used for?
Well, it's part of framing the altar usually. So it's a part of the decorative tradition. And there they have so many flowers, you just want to integrate them all over. So often in the arks, there's just the intertwined flowers. And again, it's about creating beauty. With your altar, you're creating a little space of beauty. And whether it's just one little shelf, because my first Días de los Muertos ofrenda was just one shelf with my grandmother and a candle and a couple of items that reminded me of her. But over the years, because there's been more muertos, the numbers expanded. So the idea is just create beauty, create an altar that creates beauty. And you might start by finding a table and then getting some different boxes. So you can kind of create, a little bit of a pyramid feeling to it, but it's about being creative. Some folks say, look, you got to do it with 3 levels or you got to do it with 6 levels. Well, that's the tradition where they came from. So good, they can honor that. But the most important part is create a space of beauty where you can just remember the loved ones and just feel great going to that space, sharing with them, maybe listening to them. And so my invitation to all of you is consider practicing Days of Dead from the Indio or the indigenous tradition, which is to do it in such a way where you're respecting life, you're being por vida, you're being for life, for love, for positive change. And know that the museum here is here to support you. What I've loved about our museum is that they're really trying to be more responsible to be an educational institution for all people that teaches about all cultures. So let's take advantage of that because they've got some great activities coming up. You should come check them out. I'll try to be there when I can. So my love to you, to all your relations, and may we continue doing all of what we can do to be a good community, to be good families, to lift love and to be love for each other. So I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roberto Vargas.